Who the heck gave me a microphone for 200 episodes? Hello, my friends, and welcome to the 200th episode of the Sales Podcast. I'm Wes Shaver, the Sales Whisperer, your host, and I'm live today, Facebook Live. I've got two things going on. Hello out there in Facebook land. Hello to you watching this later on in YouTube land. If you missed the 199th episode, I had Steven Sisler on. I need to tag him here on Facebook. Steven is a wizard at reading people, and he does it through assessments, like the DISC assessments. And I didn't realize that is in the open domain, but the skill to interpret the results is the real magic. And this guy is truly gifted when it comes to reading people and understanding people. So I was able to pick his brain for 30 or 40 minutes on how he does it, but then he gave me an assessment. Ooh. And we went 30 or 40 minutes where he broke me down like a shotgun. So if you ever are wondering what makes me tick, then you want to check out thesaleswhisperer.com/session 199. Now, next week, we have Ryan Stewman. He is the hardcore closer. Really good episode. This guy, he got started. He took one or two steps back, shall we say. Actually went to prison and came back. So he's the third guy I've had on now that spent time in jail. And these guys are making something of themselves. Ryan is blowing it up. And he held nothing back. I asked some very detailed questions on the technology that he uses, how he built his business, and he was an open book. So you're going to want to stay tuned next week for the 201st episode of the Sales Podcast. Today, since it is the 4th of July, Independence Day, baby. Hey, Vicki, thank you. Then I wanted to share a little history, a little Paul Harvey, right? May God rest his soul. Too many of us don't understand the history. And from the Air Force Academy, 28 years ago, they shaved my head and made me walk through there. The quote that still stands with me is John Stuart Mill's, and he said that war is an ugly thing, but not the ugliest of things. The decayed and degraded state of moral and patriotic feeling that thinks that nothing is worth war is much worse. The person who has nothing for which he is willing to fight, nothing which is more important than his own personal safety, is a miserable creature who has little chance of being free unless made and kept so by the exertion of better men than himself. We got Clarence. Luke's just joined. Clarence is a classmate of mine, True Blue 92, baby. I bet he can repeat that quote from memory as well. So what does that mean? War is an ugly thing, but not the ugliest of things. You know, when we look at our nation, the decayed and degraded state of moral and patriotic feeling, do we have that right now? I think we do. That thinks that nothing is worth war. Do we have that feeling right now? I think we do. Now, granted, I think we've been in some wars we probably should not have been. We've probably overstayed our welcome many times. But overall, when you look at the founding of this nation, was it worth war? There was really only a small percentage of men that wanted to go to war. And what led to that? So, again, when you see this online, when I put this up later, you can see what I have on my screen. But, you know, the timeline of the Revolutionary War, this thing wasn't just like some dudes were hanging out. They grabbed their AR-15 assault weapons and went to war, right? These men were what would be called today the one percenters. These were wealthy individuals. And they knew they weren't being treated properly. So again, on the screen, there were things such as the Sugar Act from 1764 and the Currency Act, the Stamp Act from 1765, the Quartering Act, right, where the British could just put troops in your house and you just had to put up with it and feed them, take care of them. Didn't matter how inconvenient it was, right? They could do that. Patrick Henry's, if this be treason, make the most of it. So that was 1765, 11 years before things got serious, right? Again, the Stamp Act in 1765, the Stamp Act Congress. So there's the Townshend Revenue Act, the Boston Non-Importation Agreement. The Boston Massacre was more than 6 years before we declared war, right? Declared our independence. We had the Tea Act and, the Boston Tea Party, 1773, 3 years. So these guys were sitting around debating this, pondering this, like, man, what can we do? We don't want to go to war. Okay, but like John Stuart Mill said, they had the drive, the determination, and the love of freedom. They realized sometimes you got to duke it out. Okay, so this continued on and on. Patrick Henry, give me liberty or give me death. That was 1775, over a year before the Declaration of Independence. So the government kept pushing. And you know what? It always happens. Governments will always push too much. Reagan said government is not the answer, it is the problem. So we've seen this throughout history. And while, the French Revolution happened, it was led by the poor, right? The farmers, the peasants. The American Revolution, like I said, was led by the elite. These were men of means. These were men who had a lot to lose, and most of them lost everything. But like I said with John Stuart Mills, war is an ugly thing, but they realized it's not the ugliest of things. To sit around and get poked in the chest repeatedly, they wouldn't stand for it. That's why many of us go out on our own. We take the risk as entrepreneurs because our companies push us around. They want us to travel. I traveled on Mother's Day one year, and man, we were not happy. That was one of the final straws that broke the back. But the travel, the extra hours, the constant cut in benefits or even pay, and being in sales, that is incessant. You do well, you're rewarded with a bump in territory, a bump in quota, usually a resulting decrease in commission. I worked with one company, and they said, look, expect to do well every third year. I was like, what? Because they know they're going to raise your quota. Finally, maybe they'll either dial it down or they won't give you a big increase after 2 big years of increases. And that third year, you make a good lick, they're going to raise your quota again. So just like the British kept poking, taking too much, taking more than they should. And eventually you're like, I've had enough. I'm going to go on my own. And now we have Great Britain leaving the EU, and people are losing their minds like a nation has never left for their freedom because of overregulation, because of a government taking too much, overextending their boundaries, taking too much liberty from its people, right? Hey, Margie Grote, it's not backwards. My camera is backwards. So that Air Force, I don't know. Whenever you turn your camera around on, anytime you turn your camera around, like on Snapchat or Instagram or these videos, it puts everything backwards. So it's not backwards there, Marine. But anyway, the government taking too much is just the same as us being entrepreneurs. So I want you to know, right, your history. And you have to realize as well that it was, pull up here on the next screen. Let me scroll. I can scroll through here. It was not until 1787, so 11 years after we declared our independence. It was 11 years after that before the U.S. Constitution was signed, because we realized that we needed some government, right? The states were just too loose. They needed a tighter federation, a stronger, more cohesive structure in the form of a little more powerful federal government, but not that much more powerful. And that's why they then put in the Bill of Rights, where they talk about the limitations on what the federal government can do, and then the rights that the states retain. And it's funny how things that obvious can be misconstrued over time, but it's human nature. And you need to understand that as well. In sales and marketing, there will always be miscommunication. People always bring an agenda to any negotiation. People always see things through their own lenses of how they're raised. What is their socioeconomic upbringing? What is their faith, right? What is their education level? What is their marital status? Do they have children? All those things skew how we view things, how we negotiate, how we view success, how we view failure. And so you may think that working in a job is misery, is death, is failure. Others may see getting a good job as the ultimate, right? As rising to the top, climbing that corporate ladder is their goal. But great salespeople understand that you must have empathy, right? And in empathy, when you're empathetic, it means you can enter the conversation going on in the mind of the prospect. It means you see things from their perspective. And that is what the best salespeople have, is great empathy. So you need to understand that we as salespeople have to adjust how we sell to accommodate how the prospect buys. And that's why I encourage you, go back and listen to my interview with Steven Sisler. So thesaleswhisperer.com/session199. And while it will be entertaining for you to hear Steven break me down and analyze me to the nth degree, what you need to take from that is you need to understand yourself. You need to take the same assessment, but then you need to be able to quickly apply it to the prospect. When you run across that prospect, you need to be able to quickly pick up what makes that person tick. What is their strategy? How are they entering that negotiation? Because to a degree, when you're selling, it is a battle, right? It's a battle of wits. When you're doing it right, it's not combative, okay? But you are trying to persuade that other person to see your point of view, to see not only the features that you offer, but the benefits. Okay. Hey, Charles Baird, Alaskan pioneer. He was an early interviewee on the Sales Podcast. What year were you, Charles? Was it 93 or 95? I forget. But Air Force grad, living up there in Alaska, doing some cool stuff. So you have to, again, understand that when you're doing sales right, you are seeking to serve. But that prospect, because they've been beaten up and lied to repeatedly for many years, they are entering that negotiation really with their defenses up, ready to battle. So how well equipped are you to engage them in a way that brings their defenses down? Most salespeople, most sales trainers tell you focus 80% of your energy on the close. That's where the money is made. Shut them down. But the best, just like in the military, just like our Navy SEALs that I talk about a lot, because a classmate of mine, again from the academy, cross-commission, we do the Tampa Bay Frogman Swim to raise money for them, for their families or those that were injured or killed. People don't realize these elite warriors, most of the time, they're just observing, right? They're bringing intelligence back, because the best warriors win without firing a shot. And so it's the same thing in sales. When you know the objection that is coming because you've done your reconnaissance, because you have the intel, the best salespeople cover those, address those objections before they ever happen. So they're totally disarmed without firing a shot. The best salespeople work from that angle, because we recognize that human beings they don't change their minds. They just make new decisions based on new information. And the more that you're talking, the more that you're going to lose a sale. You need to realize that we as salespeople, our job is to provide the structure, and the prospect provides the content. They have to hear themselves saying they have an issue. They have to quantify that issue. So then if they have a $10,000 pain and you have a $1,000 solution that they're now confident will make that $10,000 pain go away, it's easy and obvious that they will give you the money to make that $10,000 pain go away, because who wouldn't, right? If I'm offering you a $10 bill and all I'm asking from you is a $1 bill, why would you not make that transaction? So that's what the best salespeople do. So, again, I have on my screen, and I'll share this later, just the timeline going through the events leading up to the Declaration of Independence. And it was not some haphazard thing. Okay, these men did not just jump into this. It was decades long, certainly at least 10, 11 years leading up to those first shots. And then it was a long, protracted battle. And then it was more years getting things right and dialing it in, with the Constitution, with the Bill of Rights. So That's why I just wanted to bring the two together. So it looks like I'm trying to reconnect. I don't know why that is. So, hey, Justin. Hey, Carlos. Thank you. Don, welcome. Mike, good to see you. If you've got some questions, throw them out here. I'm happy to answer those here live. And like I said as well, if I can't get to them right now, I will reply later. And the cool thing with these Facebook Live videos is that it remains on my timeline, so you can come back and see the answers. But when it comes to growing your business, right? So our founding fathers, they fight, they win, but most of them lost their lives, most of them lost their fortunes. But then how do you rebuild? So as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, what challenges are you overcoming? Do you think, are you misled into thinking this is going to be some easy path, right? That it's once you hang a shingle and you're on your own, then it's just straight up to the top. If you enter business entrepreneurship that way, you're going to be disappointed. You're going to be too hard on yourself. You're going to end up quitting and going back to corporate America. So you need to realize, I wrote several posts in the past along the lines of, you can't climb a smooth mountain. Those cracks, those plateaus, even the valleys are needed to give you a finger hold, right? A toe hold, a place to rest. So you need to do your best to detach in any situation and see it for what it is. How can you get value out of this? How can you benefit from those trials and tribulations? How can you use them to maybe recover, to rest, to maybe plot a new path and then take that path? I see way too many internet gurus out there today saying it's just so easy. Just do Facebook ads. Just do Facebook Live. Just do YouTube. Just do a podcast. Just have an email newsletter. Just have a written newsletter. Learn to do SMS marketing. That's all you have to do. Just do direct mail. Really, out of all of those, doing direct mail is probably the most beneficial, proven thing you can do. But again, it costs money, and most people don't understand because they're seeing these gurus out there that are really just selling the latest potions, the latest tips and tricks to get you to spend money with them, and they're the ones that are not making the money. At the end of the day, growing a business is just like getting into shape. January 1st, you don't go to the gym at midnight until midnight January 2nd, and you're in shape for the year. You got to do a little bit every single day, consistently, over and over and over again until you reach your goal. Right? Like Justin says, overnight success is built on years of grueling, hard work. But that doesn't sell. Right? Hey, buy my bottle of pills for just $99.99 and free shipping. And wait, if you order now, you get 2 bottles. That's 2 months of these magic pills to lose all the weight you ever need. Or I say, join a gym, stop eating so much cake, drink less beer, lift weights 3 times a week, do some cardio 3 times a week. 1 day a week you can eat what you want. Do that for the rest of your life. You'll have lower cholesterol, less stress, less heart disease, less joint pain. You'll sleep better. But that ain't sexy, is it? But that's the reality. So I think things like this, like Facebook Live, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, I don't know, MySpace. I think Justin Timberlake is still on MySpace. Those things are great, but they can also bring too much noise into your life. So I think now more than ever, we have to filter the things that come in to our lives. We have to filter. We have to say no to more things than we say yes to. We need to unsubscribe from more of these newsletters than we subscribe to. We need to watch less of these Facebook Live videos and spend more time working on ourselves, working on processes that are repeatable, that are duplicatable, that are scalable. By all means, find a mentor, find a guru that resonates with you and stick with them until you've either mastered what they're teaching or what they're teaching maybe isn't as effective, and then find the next expert. Just like when I was taking golf lessons 20 years ago, I found one coach, one golf pro that resonated with me, and I stuck with them. I remember at March Air Force Base when I was stationed here over 20 years ago, there was a lady that was the head golf pro at the General Olds Golf Course, and I took lessons only from her for a year because she understood me, things clicked, and it would have damaged my growth to bounce around. And so it's the same thing in your business. There's only a handful of newsletters you can really read, and there's really only a handful of things you can implement at any given time. The goal of watching this video, listening to this podcast, watching the YouTube video, reading the blog as a post, the purpose of all this is to take action. I want you to take something from this, whether it's the courage to try a Facebook Live, whether it's the courage to try a screen share and screen capture, whether it's the courage to start a podcast or make your own MP3 recordings that you give away for free as a lead magnet or you sell. The purpose of all this is to give you the courage to try these things. And you have to pull the trigger and ride the bullet, like Roy Williams always said, the Wizard of Ads. So take action. So, Steve Jobs even mentioned it. Yeah, Justin says, turn off the news. Amen. And I'm turning off the news. There's so much negative on both sides. It's the old adage of, the New York Stock Exchange. Those that own a seat, stockbrokers love turmoil. They love chaos because they make money when you buy or sell. They don't care if the stock's going up or down. They just want you to trade. And I think the same thing is now happening in our nation with our political elected officials. I would say political leaders, but I don't know very many leaders right now in politics. They thrive on the chaos. They benefit from us hating each other. And the reality is we're all 99% the same. We want the same goals. We're 100% the same as being human beings with souls, right? Built in the image of God. So we're 100% the same in that. We're 99% the same in our goals and what we want for our children, for our families, for our nation. We differ a little bit on how to get there, right? But the politicians, the Jesse Jacksons of the world, the Al Sharptons of the world, they want us divided. And you see it now. 10, 20 years ago, I don't know if y'all remember, I think it was Baby Jessica. If y'all can help me look that up when you're online, the little girl that fell down the pipe, I think she was in Texas, and it was like 56 hours or something like that. They had to drill a hole parallel to that pipe and then go in and dig in below her to pull her out. Everybody supported each other. Now, you had that baby in Orlando got killed by an alligator. So now people just immediately, we just thrash each other. Ignorant parents, what fools, Disney's terrible, the parents are terrible. That family, the kid climbed over the wall into the gorilla pit, So they start, the parents are bad. How can you take 4 kids to the zoo? So here's a family on a holiday or a weekend taking their children to the zoo, and now they're berated. So again, I digress. But our politicians thrive on us ripping each other apart. And so, like Justin said, turn off the news. Say no to more things. The things you say yes to, consume them completely, and then implement. Steve Jobs, in one of his interviews, he said he was more proud of the 1,000 things he said no to than the 10 or 20 or 100 things he said yes to, right? Than the things that they launched. So what are you saying no to? Justin says, say no to news. I say no to more and more gurus and say yes to pulling the trigger and riding the bullet, implementing. So Jackie McClanahan is on here. She's great about pulling the trigger. She's doing videos. She's doing YouTube. She's doing a radio show. I'm not sure if you have a podcast. But she's doing a lot of things. And again, looking at what is it that you're doing to try to grow your business, when you're looking for the silver lining, for the easy button, for the silver bullet, you're going to lose. There is no silver bullet. Dan Kennedy I always remember him saying, I don't know how to get you 30 leads, but I know 30 ways to get you 1. So like I'm working with Carlos right now. The things I used to do don't work as well. SEO has changed. Organic marketing has changed. That's pushing me into doing more paid advertising. It's pushing me into doing more video, more live video. It has pushed me to do a podcast, to write a new book, to launch on-demand courses, to do more direct mail. Now I'm starting a private group with a physical newsletter, because you have to constantly be testing things. I think it was Jack Welch, that turned GE around decades ago. He said if the chaos or the change outside of your organization is greater than the change within, then the end is near. So he's saying you can't just sit on your backside being comfortable thinking everything is all hunky-dory. You have to constantly push yourself to make changes, to improve, to test new ideas. In the marketing advertising world, it's always your goal is to try to beat your best performing ad. And that is tough. That's why you belong to mastermind groups. That's why you have coaches and mentors that will hold you accountable. I did one of these Facebook Lives just on Saturday night. Drove into L.A. to pick up my son, and came home from college. And so I met up with TJ Mercer, and we did a Facebook Live event. And it was awesome seeing, the energy and speaking to her audience, but it was her coach that pushed her to do more online. It pushed her to launch a 30-day challenge. And I don't know if it's a he or she, gave Tej like a 4-day notice. Said, in 4 days, you're on the first, launch this thing. And she was like, what? But that's why you need somebody on the outside that's going to push you, that's going to hold you accountable. I've been doing this 22-day challenge of push-ups to bring awareness to the 22 veterans a day that are committing suicide. And just yesterday, so a friend of a friend, both Navy SEALs, one guy was retired for 20 years, but he texted his buddy last night, 8:03 p.m., and said he's ringing the bell for the last time. And, in the Navy SEALs, when you're in BUDS, when you ring the bell, it means you quit. You're quitting the course. And so this guy, he'd been out for 20 years, rang the bell. So even the toughest of the tough, when we lose hope, when we lose sight of the objective, when we think we're in this alone, then we give up. And I've said this before, but, in conflict, in the military, the goal is not to destroy the enemy. It's really, the goal is not to kill the enemy. The goal is to take away their will to fight. So if you remember, World War II, we dropped the bombs at Hiroshima and Nagasaki. We didn't kill everybody in Japan, but we took away their will to fight. That's when they surrendered. So these veterans are losing the will to fight for some reason. You as an entrepreneur, what are you doing to maintain that will to fight? And in both situations, it's having that buddy. I remember every day I woke up at the academy in basic training my freshman year, and pretty much all 4 years I was there, I woke up saying, I hate this place. But I'd look over at my roommate, and I'm like, he's not quitting, I'm not quitting. And so who is that? Who do you have holding you accountable to keep you going, to keep you motivated, to help you realize you're not alone? And again, what do you have? What's the big goal that you can focus on to maintain that drive? And there's always a dichotomy between having really big goals to compel you, to drive you, to motivate you, but also those goals can sometimes wear you down. Eventually, you may think they're unachievable, but that's why you need big goals. But then that's why you need to have daily action. So going back to like getting in shape, your goal may be to lose 50 pounds. And every single day you measure your weight, some days you may actually gain a pound or two. And if you use that to make you stop, then the enemy wins. So you need the big goal, lose 50 pounds, but the little goals are only consume 2,200 calories today and burn 3,000 calories today. And, go for a 2-mile walk or go lift weights for 40 minutes today. You can do that. You can get your butt out of bed. Don't put sugar and cream in your coffee, right? Have water instead of orange juice. Have a salad with light dressing or dressing on the side instead of a hamburger. You can control each of those little steps to reach the bigger goal. So you need big goals, but you need daily actions. to maintain the momentum. And I think too few of us have things dialed down into 15-minute increments. One of the little tips that I give in my Make Every Sale course, and I did this about 3 years ago. One of the coaches I had, Henry Evans, he owns the Hour Day Entrepreneur. He had me track my time in 15-minute increments, 24 hours a day for an entire month. Now, that doesn't mean you wake up out of bed every 15 minutes and track. You know, you go to bed at 10, you wake up at 6, you just draw a line, so, 8 hours of sleeping. But when you boil it down to 15-minute increments and you're writing it down on a piece of paper, your actions will improve. And those little actions add up. I'm a big fan of golf. In my training, I talk about you need to recognize that selling is a zero-sum game. And what I mean by that is not that you win and the prospect loses. What I mean is you win and your competition loses, or vice versa. And in golf, I forget the guy, Danny Willett, I think, that won the Masters this year. But he beat Jordan Spieth, and I'm drawing a blank on who he tied with. So Jordan tied with another guy. And so Danny Willett was like 1.4% better over 4 days of golf. 1.4% better, and he got a 240% increase in pay. He got like $1.8 million. The next two guys got like $880,000. But at least they got paid coming in second. But that guy being just 1% better had a 200% pay raise. If you and I are 1% worse than our competition, we get zero. So that's why I say you need to realize you're in battle with your prospects because they have their defenses up. You're in battle with the competition because a lot of them are dirty, unethical. They'll cheat, they'll lie, they'll obfuscate the truth. So what are you doing every day? Every 15 minutes is what you're doing the right thing to be doing right now to grow your business. And that's why you need a coach. That's why you need mastermind groups. That's why you need people outside. That's why you need a swim buddy to hold you accountable, to maybe carry that rifle, when you're having a tough time. Somebody to help you folk take one more step. When I first did that Tampa Bay Frogman swim, so January of 15, that was the first time I ever did an open water swim. And I panicked. I freaked out. For a long time, probably the first 45 minutes of that swim, I was not comfortable. But I had a big goal, and I had a swim buddy. I had another classmate, David Albrecht. He was there in a kayak right next to me. I knew he wouldn't let anything happen to me, and I kept going. So who's holding you accountable, right? Who's helping you? What are your big goals? And with that, I'm going to fire up the grill, pour a cold one, but I want to see real quick if y'all have any questions I can answer on this 4th of July before we go celebrate. Hey, Scott, Bill, thanks for joining us. May God bless you and your family for what y'all have done and sacrificed. Carlos is right. Well, if you're not on the internet, you're uninformed. If you're on the internet, you're misinformed. So that's a good one. So like I said, this is the 200th episode of the Sales Podcast. I figured I'd do something a little unique, get out of my comfort zone. I've never done a simultaneous Facebook Live with my camera on, with the screen recorder on. So I'll get this polished up and published and pushed out today. If you are considering doing something like this, I'd encourage you, again, dive in. Find an expert, find a guru you can emulate. Success does leave clues. All of this stuff is easier than you think, but it has intricate little nuances that you've got to master, but you can only master once you jump in. You'll be terrible the first time you do it, but anything worth doing is worth doing poorly until you master it. So are you willing to flounder in a swim until you get your rhythm? Are you willing to have poor audio, poor video, poor show notes, messed up dates, publish things when they're not ready, then have to unpublish or edit while it's live? Are you willing to stumble, right, to stub your toe until you get good at it? in my 7 deadly sins of selling, I talk about the 7th deadly sin is that we quit just before striking gold. So stay the course, okay? Have the goal, but have that goal drilled down to baby steps, 15-minute action items, and then all you have to do is get through that next one. You know, I've interviewed several Navy SEALs. I had the Navy SEAL Week last year, and I'm going to do it again this fall to drive awareness and to raise funds for the Tampa Bay Frogman Swim. But I remember one of the guys, I think it was Joel Lambert, you know, he said, just make it through the next evolution. So an evolution is just a series. Maybe it's an hour, maybe it's a couple of hours of just pain, you know, go get wet and sandy, carry this log, go for a run. But he would be like, just make it to the next meal. All right? So you get through breakfast, you know pain is coming. He's like, just make it to lunch. Get through lunch. Okay, just hang on to dinner. And sometimes that's all you can do. But that's okay. You know you can endure any short pain for a short amount of time. So have your goals. Let me know if you need help writing goals. Let me know if you need any help doing what needs to be done to reach those goals. And with that, on this this day of freedom, this day of independence from a tyrannical, overbearing, greedy, fat government, I salute all of you that have served, and may God bless America. May God bless our troops. Have a great day, everybody. Stay safe, and I will see you on the flip side. So I hope you enjoyed that episode, that unique episode of the Sales Podcast. I decided to try something a little bit different. Got some good engagement on Facebook Live. That was only my second time doing a Facebook Live. I need to do more of those, get in a rhythm. It is different than even doing a live webinar, which I've done many of those over several years. On that, I'm typically doing some type of screen share. I'm instructing, teaching people something very specific, whereas your Facebook Live, it's truly live. So you need to be either comfortable with that and or have a lot of notes ahead of time to walk you through, to keep you on track. It's a little tougher to engage and track the questions because it's all done on a little screen. So I'm going to have to experiment with using my iPad because I'm hearing people say they have good success with that as well. If you're new to Facebook Live, the concept is to give you the ability to be mobile, to bring live news, live information to your timeline. And so it's all mobile right now. So having an iPad or a tablet would give you a bigger screen to not only see yourself and how you're coming across, but it gives you a bigger screen to see the questions and the engagement. However, I just got a selfie stick with a tripod mount, which is pretty cool. So that at least kept the camera still and freed up my hand to navigate. Because on this one, I did a simultaneous capture on my iPhone as well as my screen share on my computer. And so I could show some notes, the things I was referencing on the Declaration of Independence and its timeline and how we came to fight for our freedom. So I was able to do two things at once, and somebody was recommending I do Periscope as well. So I may try to have an iPad for the Facebook Live, have my screen share, and then have my iPhone for Periscope. And the difference is Periscope goes out to your Twitter followers, and I have more Twitter followers than I have Facebook fans. So it's something to consider. I have more on Twitter, but I have better engagement, I think, a better relationship with people through Facebook. So always something to learn. But I don't have a tripod to hold the iPad. If all of this is interesting to you, then jump in. But don't jump in just because it's interesting to you. Look at your audience and see where your audience is and go where they are. Don't do things just because it's fun. Do things because it's effective in helping you grow your business. So I hope I helped inspire you with that. We went on a little bit of a rant on today's episode, but it was good to see some friends, some colleagues, some other professionals that I appreciate and respect, seeing them hop on and engage And this was impromptu, right? I did tell people a couple hours earlier that I would be doing a live broadcast later, but I didn't say when. I just wanted to see how things would go. And that is kind of a best practice, is to give people a little warm-up or advance notice, maybe 5 minutes, 10 minutes. I did one this past Saturday with a friend. The first time we had met, but we've known each other for quite a while online. I even had Tej Mercer on the Sales Podcast not too long ago. So it was great having her on or meeting her, but then we did a Facebook Live impromptu out in front of the old spaghetti factory, and we went about 30 minutes. And that was, I want to say, 10:30 at night Pacific, so people were up on the East Coast engaging with us. So this is a medium that is here to stay, and I encourage you to look into it. I encourage you to look at what is working and look at what is not working in your business, because things change. You're going to see me doing more live type things. I'm bringing out a new program, a private group called Inbound Sellers. It's a physical newsletter. You can read about it at inboundsellers.com because I want to be a little bit more offline. I want to be using more direct mail, and I want more of a private group, because while you need to do what others are doing, if it's working, you also need to do what your competition is not doing. The old zig when they zag. And so one thing I'm seeing most people get away from is direct mail and physical newsletters. So I'm going where they aren't. If you want to learn more about that, please check out inboundsellers.com. And if you'd like to see the video of this session today, if you'd like to see any of the notes that I took and links out to the different sites I was referencing during today's live. Well, it actually was yesterday's live, because now I'm making the final edits on the Monday or the morning of July 5th, which is a Tuesday. If you'd like to see that, head on over to thesaleswhisper.com/session 200. Thanks for listening. And as always, remember to sell different.